If you are on the journey to self discovery and one of your biggest problems in life is creating boundaries or having a voice for yourself, I want to talk to you because I see a lot of people who are on the journey who end up, instead of creating authentic boundaries, they're creating defensive boundaries. Because to us, boundaries, people who lack them in the first place, we lack them likely because we feel we never want to punish somebody else. And that's how we were taught what boundaries were a punishment. So we lack them in ourselves because we never want to make anybody else feel the way that we felt when we were being punished by somebody else setting a boundary. So those boundaries that were that felt imprisoning and punishing to us, like where there's shame involved or guilt involved, those aren't authentic boundaries either. So the person who's coming into this awakening of, okay, one of the things that in my life that I have to work on is creating boundaries, they'll think that they have to create boundaries the same way that boundaries were created for them, which is defensively. So I see them be like, okay, I have to go tell this person off, or I'm going to go tell my family I'm never talking to them again, or whatever it is. They get very defensive when they come to this realization that they've been violated in boundaries. But the thing is that when you're violated in boundaries, it's very likely that the other person who's violated your boundaries also struggles with boundaries. So authentic boundaries are so powerful, so powerful. And I want to help you create them. So authentic boundaries are, I have a client right now who said, her father constantly says to her, well, how's your work? How's work going? And she, one, hates her job, and two, feels like the only way that her father will accept her is if she fits into this mold of being successful at this particular job that she doesn't actually like. And she was feeling like she's going to have to say, like, Dad, don't, like, screw you. I'm never going to talk to you about my job or whatever. So she was not capable of actually sticking up for herself or saying it because she obviously doesn't want to, step to her dad like that and say, screw you. So I said, okay, well, here's the boundary. Dad, your entrepreneurship taught me that I don't ever want to work for somebody else again. And so I'm going to take your advice on that. So thank you so much for teaching me that, but I'm not going to work there anymore. That's an authentic boundary. So the people that you need to set authentic boundaries with actually are your teachers because they're teaching you boundaries. And if you come at them defensively, you're going to get more of the defensiveness. You're going to get more of the cut off. I have to cut this person out of my life or whatever. But if you come at them from the angle that, yes, you are my teacher, and if you can discover the things in them that they actually have taught you, like for me, my mother and I had zero boundaries. The enmeshment was all over the place, and then I was very ambivalent in my attachment style because there would be a boundary here, and I never knew where the boundary was. It was always all over the place, and then the boundary was punishing if there was one. So there was no boundaries, or I was being slapped, and then I was supposed to know what I was supposed to do, but it was always very confusing. So the boundary is meeting in the middle. Okay, Mom, guess what? You taught me a beautiful lesson. You taught me that kind of boundary is not acceptable. So if you want me to do something, you're going to have to actually tell me what you want me to do, not slap me when I do something you don't want me to do, right? So that's an authentic boundary to say, you're going to have to tell me what you want me to do instead of slapping me because that's not going to work for me anymore, right? I can see the pattern, and that punishing aspect of the boundary isn't going to work for me anymore. So you tell me what you want me to do, and I'll let you know if I'm going to do it. That's an authentic boundary. An authentic boundary is, I see that you're being insane in my life and I no longer want to have you in my life. And this person who's in your life that you kind of need to cut the cord with, if you know that like all avenues have been exhausted. And this is why I want to bring this up, because yes, some people deeply need to be cut from your life. You have to, that whole like Will Smith thing where it's like, hang out with people who fan your flames instead of people who try to put out your fire. It's so true. But a lot of people I see cut people out only because they don't trust themselves to actually create boundaries. So they'll cut them out going, oh, well, my dad won't let me create boundaries, or my mom won't let me create boundaries, or my friend won't let me create boundaries, so I'm going to cut this person out. We don't necessarily have to do that. If you can create authentic boundaries and then they still do not adhere to like what it is that your energy body needs in order to have them in your life, then cut them out, obviously. But most people just jump to this like, well, you're wrong and you violated me, so I'm gonna not have you in my life because you're a bad person. And that doesn't necessarily have to be the way that it goes. So notice from your heart space what boundaries need to be created and why, because the person you need to create boundaries with is teaching you to create boundaries. Take the lessons that they are teaching you, whatever it may be. There's plenty of lessons that this person is teaching you, and spin it back on them. Like, wow, you really taught me this particular thing by watching you do this thing that I didn't want you to do, or by watching you do this thing that I did want you to do. You taught me how to get to this place where I am today of trusting myself, and I'm going to let you know that you taught me this boundary, and what this boundary is now because of what you taught me stands. So here's the boundary, whatever that is. But the defensive boundary, which is like, well, you hurt me, and so that's it. That's it. Blah, blah, blah. You're bad. You're wrong. That doesn't work. It makes you look insane, right? And you will perpetuate a fear-based reality for the rest of your life, likely, until you actually can come to the place where boundaries feel powerful and authentic and not punishing and not violating to somebody else, and they're not trying to prove that somebody else is wrong. They're just trying to assert the fence around your own life that says, this is the territory I'm willing to protect, and anything that comes in that violates this territory, I'm not going to stand for. So I'm going to have to tell you, you're crossing my boundary. And I know that that's not easy, but if you can really understand that the person on the other side is teaching you things, and use the things that they're teaching you to reflect to them, you've taught me this, and now here's the boundary, your life will be radically different. And that's an authentic boundary. If you notice it coming from your heart space, that place that makes you feel actually powerful, you're creating an authentic boundary. But if you are in fear, so you're defensively creating a boundary because you're pissed off that somebody else violated you, you are going to create defensive boundaries, and then you're always going to be at war. This is not about war. Nobody wins in war, okay? So notice what people who you have to create boundaries with are teaching you, and reflect it back to them when you're setting the boundary. That's an authentic boundary. Okay, I hope this was helpful. Bye.